When you think of the Gold Coast, do you think of surfer's paradise with white pristine beaches, towering skyscrapers, and great nightlife? Or do you think of G-Link, in my opinion, the coolest light rail system in Australia? In today's video, I'll be talking about the history, the future, the economics, and the functionality of G-Link. The current network of the Gold Coast Light Rail, or G-Link, or just G, was made up of two stages. The first section between Broadbeach South and Griffith University was completed in October 2013, with testing up until the 20th of July 2014 and normal operations beginning on the 21st of July 2014. After the success of Stage 1, the Queensland Government announced a new extension to Helensvale train station on the Gold Coast Railway line from Brisbane to Varsity Lakes. The construction finished early, with passenger services commencing in December 2017 in time for the 2018 Commonwealth Games in the Gold Coast in April 2018. The Gold Coast is one of the fastest growing cities in Australia, and tourism popping up in the surfer's paradise going so fast that they had to do something about it. The Gold Coast Highway and the M1 backed up very far, taking it almost 2 hours and a half to get from Brisbane to the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast Railway line from Brisbane Roma Street to Varsity Lakes was already a thing back then, but having that so far away from the actual Gold Coast city centre became a little bit of a problem. The idea of having a light rail system in the Gold Coast first popped up in 1996 on the Gold Coast City Council Transport Plan. 8 years later, the state government and the federal government each contributed around $650,000 to fund the brand new Gold Coast Light Rail feasibility study. Wow, that's a mouthful. And in 2004, the summary draft report was finally released. In 2009, the Queensland government gave $464 million to the Gold Coast Rapid Transit Project, $365 million from the federal government, and $120 million from the Gold Coast City Council to actually start the Gold Coast Light Rail Transit Project. In 2011, Bombardier Transportation, Downer, Keolis, and a few other companies were awarded the contract to build and operate the Gold Coast Light Rail for 18 years. In the same year, the construction of the light rail line between Broadbeach South and Gold Coast University Hospital started, and the final price was around $1.6 billion. Stage 1 was very successful, and the opening and the operations worked very well, but there posed one problem. There was no way for people to get from the Gold Coast line to the tramway in the Gold Coast University Hospital, except for buses. And buses and tourists don't really mix too well. So, a new proposal became a reality. A new extension of the existing G-Link network was from Helensvale to Gold Coast University Hospital, running along Smith Road and along the rail corridor. This extension consisted of 3 new stations at Helensvale, Parkwood East, and then connecting up to the Gold Coast University tram stop. This extension was supposed to be finished during 2018, but was finished in 2017 for passenger services to be able to commence in December 2017, perfectly in time for the Commonwealth Games in 2018. This brings us up to date with the now current network, which is from Helensvale and 19 stations to Broadbeach South, including the Gold Coast University Hospital, Griffith University, Southport, Surfers Paradise, and of course Broadbeach. Now before I move on to the future of G-Link, I want to just quickly talk about the rolling stock that G-Link currently operates. G-Link currently has 18 Bombardier Flexity 2 trams in this beautiful yellow and blue livery. Each tram is around 43.5 meters in length, and their top speed is around 70 kilometers per hour. They operate on 1,435 millimeters Stanton gauge tracks and 750 volt DC overhead catenary. Their tram depot is just north of Queen Street and they are operated by Keolis Downer. Gold Coast Light Rail Stage 3 will be the next step for extending the current network. The new extension consists of 6.7 kilometers of dual track between Broadbeach South and Burleigh Heads. 5 new trams have been ordered and 8 new light rail stations are being made. Those being Mermaid Beach South, Nobby Beach, Miami North, Miami, Christine Avenue, 2nd Avenue, and Burleigh Heads. The entire extension is basically all in the median of Gold Coast Highway. This will greatly change the way that people will travel around the Gold Coast and will definitely ease traffic congestion along Gold Coast Highway. Almost every single station looks the same, which I don't really like the look of, but I also don't really mind this, so it doesn't really bother me. But one thing that does kind of bother me is the only 2 bus connections that are being added to the network, those being Christine Avenue and Burleigh Heads. Additional bus connections at different stations would have allowed for more connections, but of course the whole extension is now being made in the middle of the Gold Coast Highway, and so it does make it quite hard for a bus interchange at more stations. Although despite that, Broadbeach South, which is already the existing terminus, does have a good interchange for buses and the trams. Also, within the extension, 2 future provisions have been made at Pacific Avenue and West Burleigh Road for future spur lines from the main line. This whole project costed around $1.2 billion in combination of the state, federal and local governments. If you want to explore this interactive map that I found on the Gold Coast Light Rail Stage 3 website, the hyperlink is in the description of this video, so make sure you definitely check that out because it's pretty cool. All these stages lead to one last thing. It all connects up to the airport at the very end. Yes, that's right. The not so final plan for the Gold Coast Light Rail project is to make the line go to Gold Coast Airport. And the reason why I said not so final is because there are more provisions to extend it further down to Weed Heads and or Coolangatta. That is in the very, very future, and there is not much information about that. But in the meantime, we all know that this line is actually eventually going to go to the Gold Coast International Airport, which is, in my opinion, very cool. It's quite significant of a light rail line to go to the airport. I mean, we all know that Melbourne's not going to have one before Gold Coast is, which is obvious. There's not much information that I could fully make a segment of this video, but in the end there's just going to be a connection to the airport, which is the significant part overall. In the end, I think it's a very practical idea of having a light rail system in a big city like the Gold Coast. It connects up Surfers Paradise with the main station that also connects up to Brisbane, which is a great idea. Of course, the only downside of that train station is that services run every 30 minutes, and that is not so great. But that is it for me. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day ahead of you.